Many people have asked us, how did we build that bridge in Torres del Paine? Well, the short answer is, one step at a time and with the help of a lot of people. I'm Chris Brownlick, the Chief Executive Officer of Conservation Volunteers International Program. The first time my husband Richard and I went to the park was in 2007 with a group of trail maintenance volunteers organized by Conservation VIP. Hiking in the park, we were stunned at how beautiful it is. We never guessed that that first visit would lead to our building the bridge in 2015. But one thing led to another. On our first visit, we worked on trails near the face of Grey Glacier. Richard's a structural engineer with bridge building experience, and working on the trails near there, he recognized that the park needed bridges on the trails, and he offered to help them design and build bridges. After our annual visits to the park with Conservation VIP, Richard and I surveyed bridge sites. He then drafted designs for several bridges. The Spanish word for a deep ravine or gorge is quebrada. In 2014, the park decided that building a bridge across this quebrada was a priority. Without a bridge, hikers had to use steep ladders on each side to get down into and then back out of the quebrada on the other side. Each year, the avalanches scour the quebrada. As it has become deeper, the ladders required to cross the quebrada have become more treacherous. Replacing the ladders each year is a dangerous mission for the park rangers. While we were building the bridge, we had to use the ladders to go back and forth from one bridge end to the other, sometimes several times a day. Let's just say that the experience motivated us to work as fast as we could to get the bridge built. We met in Yosemite, which is a sister park to Torres del Paine, and agreed on a plan. Yosemite would provide 2 people with rope, cable, and rock skills for the critical first 2 weeks of construction. Torres del Paine would move the materials to the site, supply a base camp, provide people to help with construction, and buy an expensive rock drill. Conservation VIP would raise money to purchase the other materials and supplies. Later, Conservation VIP recruited 2 more volunteers from California, Alec and Allie, to work on the bridge. Richard worked with Alex Leal, the park's engineer, to identify suppliers for the key bridge materials available in Patagonia, and they started ordering the major components. On the 1st of January 2015, Richard and I set out for Chile. Our first stop was in Punta Arenas, where Neftali escorted us to many hardware stores and industrial suppliers so we could find all the materials and tools that we needed. Then we headed to the park to coordinate with the park's maintenance staff, who cut the big cable into 4 lengths and built custom jigs for making the cable hangers. While we met with the park managers to plan the project coordination, 2 park volunteers, Valerie and Ignacio, put 2 coats of preservative on almost 300 pieces of lumber for the bridge. Finally, on January 14th, our group headed for the project site. That afternoon, our first act was to get a rope across the quebrada. First, Alex shot an arrow across, which was tied to fishing line. The fishing line was used to pull across lightweight parachute cord, then the P-cord was used to pull across a strong rope. We used that rope many times over the next month to move materials from one side of the project to the other, but it wasn't safe enough for people to cross on it, which is why we used the ladders during construction. We ended the first day on the job feeling great to finally be working on the construction site. It wasn't until the next day that things started to go downhill. As soon as we started digging, we realized that the underlying solid rock was deeper than we expected. To solve the problem, some of the cable anchorage had to be redesigned, so Justin started digging a deep hole to bury a dead man on the south side. The rock abutments on both bridge ends had to be substantially higher, requiring a lot of slow, arduous rock work. Even more worrisome, the redesign meant we needed more materials. We needed many more heavy sacks of mortar for the rock abutment walls, and a 3-meter-long steel pipe to bury as a dead man for 2 of the cable ends. While we waited for the materials to arrive, our group spent long days excavating and building rock wall abutments. Meanwhile, Alex Leal and Neftali searched in Punta Arenas to get the new materials. The biggest challenge was locating the long steel pipe for the dead man. We were both impressed and relieved that by January 19th, only 4 days later, the park had managed to deliver the materials to the site. And so the work continued. Greg was the master at building the rock abutments. To make the mortar, Ellie took on the difficult task of hauling water in buckets in her backpack from a stream far below. Ignacio and I cut the 1/4-inch cable and began constructing the hangers which would connect the upper and lower cables. As the abutment walls neared completion, the thresholds were attached with rock bolts. The saddles for the lower cables could then be attached to the thresholds. The 2 Yosemite employees had to return to the U.S. soon, and we were very anxious to get the first cable across the Quebrada while they were still there. We put the reel with a 1/2-inch cable up in the air so the cable could be unrolled without getting kinks in it. On January 24th, 10 days after we had arrived at the site, we finally pulled the first cable across the Quebrada and loosely fastened it at each end. We were ready to head to town the next day for our scheduled break, but we knew that we would not rest easily because once again we had a big problem. When Justin was drilling for the first anchorage, the drill bit became stuck. When he got it loose, the drill shaft was bent. Without a rock drill, we couldn't build a bridge. We had brought the 2.5-inch drill bit from the U.S., and we could not quickly find one in Chile. We found a machine shop that straightened the shaft, but we did not know if it would work or just bend again. Almost every day on the job, we had seen rocks and sometimes even trees falling in the Quebrada. We worried about the people using the ladders. So we cut our rest short and hurried back to the site as quickly as possible. Once again our luck turned, this time for the better. The park people had finished building the base camp, so more of them were available to help on the bridge. Alejandro tried the rock drill, and it worked. The drill continued to work as we drilled a series of holes, coated the anchorage pipes with epoxy, and inserted them into the holes.
If there's any left, cool. Twist it as it goes in if you can. Oh, sweet. Very sweet.
Oh yeah. Oh.
Very nice.
Eso.
Yeah, perfecto.
Felix and Patricio finished bracing the bridge entrances and attaching the cable saddles so that the upper cables could be pulled across.
Okay, uno más.
The ends of the cables were prepared with loops to anchor them around the pipe anchorages. A turnbuckle was attached to each cable for adjusting the tension in the cable.
Okay.
Once each cable was anchored on one end, the initial tension was set using a come-along on the other end.
Fuck, it's so scary.
Hey, you want a colgante before you go any further? We could connect them.
Oh no, it'll be fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I think.
We'll find out.
With two cables safely anchored, Alec was the first person to cross on the cables.
Well, yeah, well, we were thinking of using putting a pulley on top, pulley on the bottom, and connecting the two with one of those colgantes, one of the hangers. That would keep the cables together.
Meanwhile, Felix and Patricio drilled the boards for the decking. The holes had to be drilled precisely to ensure the correct spacing for the cables.
Come on.
The final assembly on the cable hangers also required a lot of precise work. The hangers needed to be the same length to ensure that the upper and lower cables would be spaced evenly so all four of the cables would carry the load.
That's a good start.
Yeah.
Yeah, that way. Okay. And then what I've been doing that seems to work is to pull it as tight as you can. And then, unfortunately, you've got to try to tighten it while you're holding it as tight as you can.
When all four cables were across, Richard positioned himself uphill with a pair of binoculars. Using radios to communicate, he instructed the team to adjust the cable ends until all four cables appeared to have the same sag. To protect them from rust, the dead man and the portion of the cables which would be buried were coated in tar. The tops of the pipe anchorages were sealed with epoxy. After the cable anchorages were completed, the first cable hangers and deck boards were installed on February 8th.
Get it.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Get it?
Yeah.
The procedure was repetitious. Install two boards, then attach two hangers. The park rangers took turns with the job of installing the boards and hangers. Richard worked with each of them to make sure that the spacing was consistent and that the hardware was tightened sufficiently. The wind sometimes added to the challenge, although not the danger, since they wore safety harnesses. When about a third of the decking was in place, it was apparent that the cables needed adjusting to level the deck. Richard decided to take the shortcut to the other side to adjust the turnbuckles. Although it was safer on the cables than on the ladders, it did not save as much time as he had hoped. Then it was back to work with Diego, who holds the record for placing the most boards and cables. Excelente! Así perfecto. My job during most of this period was to carry materials out to the bridge end, a few items at a time, to minimize the risk of materials falling into the quebrada. I tried to walk gently because bouncing on the bridge made it harder for the rangers trying to connect the nuts and bolts at the end of the bridge. Installing board after board, day after day, as the bridge stretched out further and further across the quebrada, we began to realize that we really would reach the other side.
Sí, pero no pudieron ni meter.
No, no, que ser.
When Tully came to the site, I asked him what he thought of the bridge.
Tiene que despejarle el espacio a los mujeres.
Neftali,
Sí,
¿qué piensas del puente?
una maravilla, una obra. Yo creo que nunca se valoró tanto como lo corresponde. Una obra excelente, Cristina. Felicitaciones para ti, Ricardo.
Patricio and Felix installed the final boards. It had taken just over 6 days to install the hangars and the deck.
Perfecto, casi perfecto. Yeah.
¡He terminado! ¡He terminado!
The part of the job we had most worried about was done, but we still had work to do. Richard checked the tension in the cables and then adjusted the turnbuckles.
Okay, let's try the bottom. What are they about to come in? Okay.
There was another big issue. When we started the bridge, there was no easy way to connect from the north end of the bridge back to the hiking trail. To help with construction, Allie had attached a rope to trees on a steep slope, and we used that rope to help pull ourselves up to the north end of the bridge. Fortunately, Alec had discovered a longer but much better route back to the trail, so while we were working on decking, they were putting in long days building the new trail. On that new section of trail, there's a terrific spot to stop and take photographs of Grey Glacier. I decided to walk across the completed bridge and record the experience for those people who don't have the opportunity to visit this beautiful park in person. The completed bridge is 52 meters long, or about 170 feet. The middle of the bridge is 45 meters, or about 150 feet, above the bottom of the quebrada. The peaks of the mountains tower 8,000 to 9,000 feet above the bridge. The foot of Gray Glacier is 900 feet lower than the bridge deck. The park removed the ladders soon after the bridge opened. While building the bridge, we walked the bridge and used the ladders many times, and we much preferred the bridge. We know, though, that some people feel scared walking on such a long hanging bridge so high in the air, which is unfortunate because the bridge is much safer than the ladders. And it is good to know that the park rangers no longer have to maintain the ladders. The new trail to the new bridge was opened on February 17th, which was a rainy and windy day. Park Superintendent Federico Heckenleitner came for the opening. TV Nacional also came to report on the bridge, and they interviewed Federico and Richard. It was not possible for me to get a clear recording of Federico's interview, but when the reporter asked Richard why he built the bridge, I did capture Richard's response. We later agreed that his response to the TV reporter did not start off with the best answer for national television.
Why? Number one, it's better than sitting around watching television, and it's much nicer to get some work done that you can do as an engineer that will be a benefit to the hikers and the people in the park. I think this will be a great boon, a great help to the Gorda Parkers because they have to do so much work to maintain this sort of trail across such a quebrada.
Mm-hmm. All right, so how long did it take to build this walking bridge?
This particular one only took about a month and a half.
The next day we packed up and headed down the lake. I looked back at the mountains with a mix of happiness that the bridge was built and sadness to be leaving the park. The experience was so intense and challenging that I'm sure many of the people who worked on the bridge will remember it for some time to come. I wish I had been able to take video of everyone who contributed to the project, but it was just not possible. I did manage to record some of them though, so if you want, keep listening so you can hear about the experience from them.
Hola, mi nombre es Alejandro y muy orgulloso de haber trabajado en el puente. Las cosas salieron muy bien, el puente está bonito, está funcional y una experiencia bastante agradable que se podría volver a repetir en cualquier otro lugar. Y agradecido también de la gente que vino acá, de Yosemite, y todo bien. Eso es.
Eso es.
Yeah, today we just finished, well, mostly finished putting the boards on the bridge, and that's been really, really exciting. I think this is day 13 or 14 of this hitch, and it's amazing seeing the bridge as a bridge. It's hard to believe that happened. it's very exciting. It's been super fun working with the guardaparques here. We've had a really great time getting to know them and getting to know this place that they get to enjoy all the time. It's an amazing place.
Listo.
Hola, mi nombre es Patricio Barría y soy uno de los carpinteros que trabajó en el puente acá en Torres del Paine. Mi experiencia en el trabajo del puente fue bonita. Nunca había trabajado en un puente. Con la gente que trabajé igual fue buena. Aprendí harto. Y otra cosa, que siendo de la zona no conocía el Torres del Paine y es un lugar maravilloso. Es recomendable, es muy bonito. Y el puente me quedó bonito. Gracias, chao.
Okay, it's filming. What would you like to say, Valerie?
I'd like to say it's been really great working with everybody on the bridge. It did involve a lot of effort from everyone, starting from the planning to organizing everything and to actually putting it together, and it's been a wonderful experience to share that with the Browlich and the guys from Yosemite and the guys from the park and the guardaparques working here. It's been really, really interesting and really nice. So thank you for all the good work and the effort, and yeah, it's been a trip. It's been an adventure, so thank you.
Okay, ¿cuándo estás listo?
Bueno, para mí esta experiencia fue una de las mejores que he vivido aquí en Torres del Paine. Llevo tiempo trabajando acá, pero trabajar en conjunto con guardaparques de otras partes, de Yosemite, voluntarios, con Alex y Ali, ha sido una experiencia enriquecedora. Fui el maestro de los tablones. Y nada, quería agradecer por esta oportunidad de participar en este proyecto tan maravilloso que es construir el puente más alto de Torres del Paine. Ahora queda lo último ya, terminar el sendero y, bueno, celebrar.
Okay.
So whatever you want.
First I want to say thank you to you and Richard. That is a very beautiful work, and I'm very, how do you say it, very proud of being part of this project, because I saw in the planes and enthusiastic, because I like all these little bridges. I like that the people is comfortable with the bridge. I like this kind of work because you move a lot of good people and see how they work to get this done. Yeah? You see different parts of the people and you work with them, and I'm very proud of that. It's very good for the park and it's a very beautiful job. And thanks to you, Chris, and Richard, that you made me part of this project. And also in the name of CONAF, in the name of all the rangers that have in charge of me, that could work with you, and really thank you. And en castellano, estoy muy feliz, estoy muy feliz porque este puente para mí es la primera vez que trabajo en algo como esto. Ya, es algo muy bonito y estoy muy orgulloso de haber participado en ello, y le doy las gracias de nuevo, ahora en mi idioma, pero súper bien, y espero que pueda seguir trabajando en el parque para poder seguir haciendo cosas como esta, porque de verdad ha sido una muy linda experiencia. Muchas gracias a todos.
Bueno, yo igual quería agradecerle a todos los que vinieron, a los chicos, por la oportunidad de aprender, que siempre se aprenden cosas nuevas, y la ayuda tremenda que significa para nosotros, que nos aligiera bastante la carga laboral, que hay un puente nuevo, aumenta bastante la seguridad y la comodidad también para los pasajeros y para nosotros mismos, que tenemos que portear y movernos a través de las quebradas. Así que nada, gracias de nuevo por todo y fue una buena experiencia.
Okay, listo.
Mi nombre es Felizardo Fundaya, he participado en este importante proyecto que ha sido muy interesante para todas las personas que participamos acá. Más que un trabajo, ha sido un privilegio haber estado en la construcción de esta pasarela. ha sido un proyecto muy importante para el turismo de nuestro país.
Okay. I thought it was great building that bridge and getting to know everybody, meeting all the guardaparques and working with them, communicating with people from a totally different culture and putting it all together to build a magnificent project was pretty much the most satisfying thing I've ever done. So it's right up there with pretty much any amazing thing that you could think of. So, yep, totally satisfied. Amazing experience. I think it's going to help the park a lot. And yeah.
Ready to go again another year?
Heck yeah. We'll see what happens.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Freddy, ¿qué piensas del nuevo puente?
No, es algo impensable. Por fin de tantos años estar esperando a una solución. Esa nos ha traído muchos problemas, esas quebradas, esos pasos. Entonces ahora es increíble verlo realizado, este trabajo.
Have worked with us for a long time, so you know our organization. And what would you like to say about the bridge?
So for me as a park ranger, it's a great honor to host Cristina and Ricardo for many years that we are working together on conservation, especially in working with people, inspire the new generations with volunteers and with the technicians from Yosemite, our sister park, that's come to Torres del Paine and help to develop the standards on trail, especially with this amazing project with the hanging bridge. We are very grateful with the support and all the help received from our friends Ricardo and Cristina, and of course with the trail crew from Yosemite that came down, with the volunteers and the park rangers from Torres del Paine that's working in this amazing adventure.
A ver, este puente fue un gran trabajo, un esfuerzo de equipo que partió hace muchos años atrás con el primer bosquejo que hizo Richard y que significó en etapas intermedias convocar gente para financiar en Estados Unidos, gente para hacer el transporte de los materiales, la contratación de un helicóptero y largas sesiones acá de planificación para ver cómo avanzábamos en la construcción del campamento base. Se atrasó un poco, pero funcionó, y este puente para nosotros ahora es un orgullo, es algo que podemos mostrar como parte de la experiencia que es Torres del Paine, no solamente por lo difícil que es para la gente circular en el circuito, porque el puente este tiene la particularidad de que sigue siendo parte de una experiencia extrema que la gente viene a vivir a la Patagonia aquí en Torres del Paine. El circuito del macizo Torres del Paine no pierde ese encanto con este puente, por el contrario, se transforma en una parte probablemente en el futuro icónica de este circuito, el caminar sobre un puente colgante de ese largo, de esa altura, y con el tremendo marco de fondo que es el glaciar Grey. Así que yo creo que esto va a ser un gran aporte para la visita del turista, para la visita de nuestros visitantes que recibimos en Torres del Paine, y también eso va a ayudar a facilitar el trabajo de los guardaparques que van a poder recorrer todos los lugares, evacuar zonas, de manera mucho más rápida y segura, como no lo era cuando teníamos que caminar por esa quebrada tan inestable. Pero esto es un gran orgullo para nosotros y sobre todo para ustedes, Cristina y Richard, que han aportado de manera tan importante para la conservación de este parque.